Hey wonderful people, it's Genevieve, and my goal here on this channel is to teach you all about illustration and a little bit of design too. In today's video, you will learn the best way to add colors to your sketch in Procreate, no matter if you drew them on regular paper with pencils or directly within Procreate. And I will share with you 2 super easy methods and styles, as well as 8 pro tips and hacks that can completely transform the final illustration. So grab your drawing tools and let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is create a new canvas and import our sketch. So if you already know how to do this, feel free to jump ahead to the next chapter. Otherwise, open up your Procreate gallery and tap on the plus sign to create a new canvas. You can then pick a size from the list or create your own, that is totally up to you. And if you need help picking a canvas size, don't worry, just pause the video here and check out the description below. You will find a link with a video teaching you everything you need to know. Now, if you created your sketch directly within Procreate, you can copy and paste it in your new canvas by opening your original sketch. And then within the layer panel, you're going to be able to select your sketch. And if you tap on it, you'll be able to copy that layer. From there, you can simply head back to your newly created canvas and paste your sketch by opening the Action menu, or as I like to call it, the wrench icon menu, and selecting Paste, which you can find in the Add submenu. Making sure your arrow tool is set to uniform, you will then be able to resize and reposition your sketch until it is exactly how you want it. You could also select Fit to Canvas right here to make it, well, fit the canvas. If instead you created your sketch with pencil and paper, then you need to import it within Procreate. An easy way to do so is to open your Action menu, or as I like to call it, the wrench icon menu, and select Take a Photo from the Add submenu. Now, the quality of the photo you take at this step can influence the final result, so I highly recommend making sure your sketch is properly lit. Once more, you will be able to resize and reposition your sketch. Just make sure you have selected Uniform here at the bottom. Once you're happy with the positioning, we are going to tweak the picture to make it as neat as possible. To do so, simply select your sketch layer, then open the Adjustment panel, select Hue, Saturation, and Brightness, and lower the saturation all the way down to lose any color in the picture. From there, go back to the Adjustment panel, this time selecting Curves. Tap on the blue dot on the top right of the graph and move it toward the left until you find the peak, which will turn most of your background white. If there are any dark sections remaining, especially on the edges, simply grab your eraser, set it to the soft brush in the airbrushing pack that comes with Procreate, and, well, erase them. The key to quickly and effectively coloring a sketch in Procreate is to start by creating big blocks of colors for the main elements of the illustration. And if you're someone who struggles with color palettes, let me free you, you don't even need one. I'll share a super easy tip to help you pick colors later in the video. But for now, the first and biggest block of color we need to tackle is the background. Procreate canvases come with a white background by default, but working on a white background can actually mess up your illustrations. I know it sounds silly, but essentially your eye and brain are going to be tricked into seeing the colors you use as darker than they really are because they are being compared to the brightest color of them all, white. That in turn can limit the color palette you use and decrease the dynamic range or the contrast of your illustration. So you can probably see me coming here. Tip number 1 is to draw on a neutral gray background, or even better, on a color close to what you imagine your background will be like in the end. So that's great, but what about coloring the actual illustration? Well, from here, we will look at 2 different methods to create the remaining blocks of color depending on the style of illustration you want, with or without line art. Let's start with color blocking an illustration with line art. The good news is there is a super handy feature in Procreate that will allow you to literally fill in your colors in just seconds. But first, we need our line art. And a couple notes here, your line art should be on a separate layer, and there should not be any gaps within the lines. If you wanted, you could simply drop the colors in the line art as if it were a coloring book. But doing that would prevent you from using the magic no palette needed trick I'll show you later in the video. So instead, let's use this handy dandy Procreate feature called Reference. You can activate reference by tapping on your line art layer to open the layer menu, and then selecting reference right here. When you activate reference on your line art layer, you will be able to drop colors on layers that do not have the line art, and Procreate will still color within the lines. Note that you may need to adjust your threshold by holding your pencil on the screen when dropping the color, and then moving it from side to side until you reach the point right before the color fills in more than the shape you're trying to fill in. Then you can tap on Continue Filling and drop the same color over multiple areas. And essentially from here, all you would do is fill in your main shapes, making sure that you keep every color or at least every type of color separate if you are not using a palette, so that we can tweak them later down the road. Speaking of which, you can be very quick here when you pick your colors because we're going to, well, change them later down the road. But what about an illustration without line art? The steps are slightly different, but just as easy. Technically, we did the first steps already, which was to take a picture of our sketch and then clean up the background. But the background still appears white. So go ahead and select your sketch layer, then tap on the N next to the visibility checkmark, and pick Multiply at the top of the list. These are called blending modes, and as you can see, they affect the way the layer interacts with the rest of the image. Multiply makes all the white on the layer appear transparent, leaving us with only these sketch lines. Then from here, you can go ahead and create a layer under your sketch and name it Silhouette. Then go ahead and pick one color you know you want in your illustration, again though no need for that color to be exact, and draw an outline around the entire character or main object in your sketch. Then, once you have your outline, you can fill it in with your color to create a silhouette. And if you have many characters in your illustration, you would do this step for each one of them. But now to the fun part. Just like we did in the method with line art, we are going to create multiple layers for the different colors we want in our piece. And to make coloring quicker and easier, I like to use clipping masks. So by placing a layer above our silhouette and activating the clipping mask option from the layer menu, we are able to draw on this new layer, and like magic, the color will stay within the silhouette. Now, of course, we still have to delineate between the colors within the silhouette, but at least we don't have to worry about staying within the main shape. And a little bonus tip here, clipping masks are also super handy if you're working on shading. And so from here, just like for the illustration with line art, you would fill in all your main shapes, making sure each color, or at least each type of color, is on a separate layer. And I'm going to repeat myself once more here, the colors you use do not need to be exact at this stage because we're going to change them or tweak them at least in the next step. So at this stage, you should have your main colors on separate layers. And again, if you're someone who doesn't like having a lot of layers, don't worry, you'll be able to merge them all in just a couple of steps. And at this stage, your colors might not look great, they might look all over the place. And so here comes my favorite trick. Or maybe actually my second favorite. I think the very last one in the video might be my favorite, but anyway, we are going to hide all of the color layers we have except for one, either the largest section or the most important color. Select that layer, go in the adjustment panel, pick Hue, Saturation, and Brightness, and play with these sliders right here until you're happy with the color. I like to start with the hue, which is what we usually call color, so blue, red, yellow, etc. And then move to the brightness, then the saturation, and finally tweaking them all three as needed until I'm super happy. Then once that is done, you can exit the menu and repeat these steps with all your other color layers, which will allow you to build a beautiful palette by trying things out instead of needing to have it all figured out from the start, which can be really challenging. And a cool thing here is the more you use this technique, the less you will actually have to tweak your colors because your eyes and your brain will start to automatically pick the right ones right at the color blocking stage. And once you're done going through all your layers, if your colors still look a little bit all over the place, don't worry, the last tip in the video is a foolproof way to bring them all together. Okay, so this chapter is where things get really good. The last 4 tips are super quick and easy, but they can help take your illustration from meh to whoa. So let's start with tip number 5. Right now, our blocks of color are very flat. To add more interest to your illustration, you can create simple gradients within some of the larger blocks by using a variation on tip 4 about the Hue, Saturation, and Brightness tool. So go ahead and select a layer on which you have a large block of color. Then grab your selection tool here at the top, make sure it is set to freehand, and draw a selection over one section of your color. Make sure to close the selection by tapping on the gray circle. And then to the most important step, select Feather here at the bottom, which will allow you to create a gradient within your selection. Now you'll probably have to experiment with the feathering amount here based on the size of your canvas and the size of your block of color, but I find something between 20 and 50% usually works well. Now you probably see where I'm going. With our gradient selection activated, we are going to add a gradient to our color by using the Hue, Saturation, and Brightness tool. And this trick can really be used to do so many things. You could create an ombre effect in the hair, you could create a gradient within the clothes, you could use this to add shadows and lights very easily and quickly. Really, the sky is the limit here, so you can do pretty much whatever you want. And if the amount of layers in your file is starting to stress you out, I have some great news for you. At the end of this step, you will be safe to merge all your color layers together. Just make sure your sketch or line art is still separate. The next two tips are quick ways to enhance your lines. Let's start with tip 6, which applies to illustrations with line art. So if you want to recolor your line art, you can do so very easily by activating what is called Alpha Lock in the Layer menu. Everything you draw on your line art layer is now going to stay within the pixels or the lines that were already there, meaning you can pick a different color and either use Fill Layer to recolor the entire line art, or pick multiple colors and manually recolor individual sections of your line art. This is a trick I use very often because I love having outlines that match different sections of my illustration, usually being a darker version of whatever color is, well, in that section. Tip 7 is a way to add colors to the line of our original sketch, whether it was drawn on paper or within Procreate. So with your sketch layer selected, go ahead and open your adjustment panel and select Gradient Map. Then tap on the plus sign to create a new gradient. And this tool is really cool. It is going to allow you to change the blacks, the grays, and the whites of your sketch to other colors. So for example here, if I tap on the black square, it's going to open up the color wheel, and whatever color I pick is going to be the new color of what used to be black. I could also tap somewhere else on the gradient to add more colors, so coloring the grays, not just the blacks in the sketch, which will produce an even richer result in the end. And a super quick bonus tip here, if you want, you can also apply your sketch as a layer, or a clipping mask I should say, on your silhouettes. In my case I say silhouettes because I have the dog and the boy. And by doing that, your sketch will not be spilling out of the shapes, which can help make the sketch look less messy, but still preserve some of that life that it would bring to the illustration. And of course, you can also play with the opacity of your sketch layer so it blends better with your colors. And you can erase any weird part of your sketch that just looks completely off. And here, obviously, if you want, you can remove the sketch altogether and refine the illustration as needed by adding borders between different elements. But I do like to include the original sketch in my final illustrations because I feel it gives them a lot more life and personality. And last but not least, we have tip number 8. This one is super quick and it is really the cherry on top of the sundae. So for this trick, all you need to do is create a layer at the very top of your layer list and fill it with either your background color, if you have one, or any other ambient color you would like to give to your piece. Then you can apply that color to the rest of your illustration by changing the blending mode and opacity of the layer. Of course, here the exact recipe will depend on your own preference and the result you want in the end. I like to use soft light combined with an opacity anywhere between 15 and 30%. And here, if you want to combine two tips, you can use the Hue, Saturation, and Brightness tool to intuitively play with the color of this top layer. Now, it might seem subtle, especially on camera here, but it is a great way to make sure all the colors in your illustration have something in common, which helps make them look more harmonious. So let's say I do a quick example here with some random colors. You can see they don't look fantastic together. Now, if I apply my color layer as a clipping mask, just so it doesn't affect the background, you can see that when I activate it, suddenly the colors work way better together. And if I were to use my Hue, Saturation, and Brightness tool, it's a really quick and easy way to tweak the mood of an illustration by tweaking the general color vibe. And the very last tiny little thing we have to do here, if your background is still neutral gray, make sure to change it to something else, which you can do pretty intuitively as well, because the background color layer within Procreate will allow you to play with the color selector, and the background will change as you're doing it, which is, again, super handy. Now, I went really quickly here in the demo to keep this tutorial as short and sweet as possible, but here's an example of what you could achieve by spending a little bit more time on each of these tips. Now, I have a question for you. You can see I added some shadows and some lights in this illustration. Would you be interested in a shading video, so a similar format to this one, but focusing on lights and shadows instead of coloring like we just did? So if you are interested, please let me know in the comments below, and if enough of you are interested, I will try to make it happen. In the meantime, check out this video right here, all about the Procreate feature you need to know to improve your workflow and ultimately your illustrations. If you would rather learn how to improve your sketches and just your overall drawing experience, then this super short video has the trick for you. So click on any of those links, and I'll see you there.